Welcome to FitBody Lifestyle, the show where we dive deep into the world of fitness, health, business, relationships, and the art of living a balanced life. I'm Jamie.
And I'm Greg, and we're here to give you the benefit of our experiences in the fitness and bodybuilding industry, the corporate world, running a business, personal development, and building healthy relationships.
Whether you're sweating it out in the gym, hustling in your business, or seeking balance in your everyday life, you're in the right place.
So lace up those sneakers and grab that water bottle, and let's get ready to transform our minds, our bodies, and our lives.
Welcome back to another episode of FitBody Lifestyle, and we are so excited to have a special guest here today. We have Miss Angela Rutherford, and we're going to first of all talk and get to know her a little bit, and then we're going to talk a little bit about trusting the process, which is the payoff of patience. So Angela, please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background. I will say she's an IFBB pro, an amazing coach, FitBody Fusion coach for how many years now?
10.
10 years?
10 years.
Yeah. Well, tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So I've always been attracted to fitness and healthy, living. I grew up watching my mom do her little step aerobics in our living room, so it's just been a part of my life since I can remember, and having that to kind of as a role model growing up, I was just drawn to it. And then I was introduced to weights at 12 years old in PE. Wow. And since then it kind of just...
What kind of school are you going to?
I had a really great PE teacher.
Okay. That's good.
And then I took weight training in high school as an elective, and, started working out in the middle, on summer break. I was doing calisthenics in my room, dips on my dresser and push-ups and sit-ups. And I would kind of just do it like, how many could I do in a minute? And then I got into, further educating myself, going to school for personal training in my early 20s, and started doing in-person training with people in 2010. So I did that for about, a good 7 years before I transitioned to full online coaching with you guys. So it's been a journey in itself to get where I am.
So that's the path, Angela.
That's the path.
Tell us a little bit more about so you're a mother of two.
Yes, I'm a mom of two.
and a great mother. You're a coach. You're an IFBB bikini pro after a little circuitous journey that we'll talk a little bit about today. And what else? I mean, give us the resume.
Oh gosh, it's long. No. It's not that long. I mean, it's the resume of my fitness journey.
Well, just your resume of who you are, so people know as we get into trusting the process and the power of patience. Give them a little bit about what you've accomplished, and other than being a mother of two, which is a big accomplishment, other than being an IFBB bikini pro, big accomplishment. Being a online coach, big accomplishment. Is there being a wife?
He's giving it all. He's giving it all, and then he's telling you.
You want me to just repeat that?
Sorry, no, I don't know, and I apologize. That was really dumb of me. I'm wanting to give you an example. I'm giving you the answer instead.
You're giving me great examples.
Is there anything else people should know about you in terms of training, certifications, things of that nature?
Yeah, so I am NASM certified in personal training and then nutrition, and I actually went to a trade school for personal training. So that was about a year and a half. And I recently got my certificate with J3U with their women's course. But I'm constantly learning between just what we do, as coaches together. And then, on my own, I have a lot of favorite podcasts that I get, good reminders of, my core values. And at the end of the day, it's with this lifestyle and how I've grown to live it. It's just been a part of me since I can remember, always being, aware of what you're putting in your body and how you treat your body. And, there was a time when it was a little excessive and unhealthy, but, through this process that, I've learned from Jamie, and that whole transition, it's really come full circle. and learning how to have the balance of, I guess, like this lifestyle, but also having the balance of everything else in between, juggling being a mother, being a wife, being a good friend, being a sister, being a daughter, and kind of just
Business owner.
a business owner. We were talking about this on the way here, and it's I've learned to just mesh it all together over the years through trial and error.
And I think it's great that you expressed, like in the beginning, it was a little bit more excessive, and we see people at both ends of the spectrum. Yeah. And I think like this is why this topic is so relevant, and having you here, and for me getting to see you being patient with your body, because through that excessiveness, sometimes what ends up as happening is we drive the metabolism down. Yeah. So I'd love for you to talk a little bit about kind of that wall that you hit at that point, and why did it require some patience, and, and then, how that continued to unfold as, different priorities shifted in your life.
Yeah. So I love this, going deeper into this, because when I first started competing, or even just like prior to that, backing up a little bit, like when I had my eating disorder, it was stemmed because I wanted to look the way I look now. I wanted to look like a bodybuilder. I wanted to look like an athlete, and I was just drawn to that. And, the excessiveness and not being educated on what you should be doing to achieve that, and back then it was very bro diet, bro science, like eat this, these 3 things and you're going to get there. That brought a bunch of health issues my direction from a mental standpoint and a physical standpoint. And, they collided together, and it was just a mess. And it took years to overcome that. And, not having anxiety around food and what I was eating in social situations, and that aspect. And then just feeling like I got over that hump, began competing, did that the first year, very successful on my own. I felt like I was eating more than I had ever eaten in my life. And then competing under your guidance, and then being introduced into flexible dieting. And just after that whole year of competing on my own, self-coached, going into my first season with you, we've talked about this yesterday. I was like a machine, as far as what my body could do. Like you threw everything at me, and it was like it didn't faze me, because I was so conditioned, cardiovascularly and endurance wise. Like I could work out all day, it felt like. But because of that, that's what led me into all the health issues that I had, from metabolic adaptations. My body just got really good at figuring out how to survive with what I was doing, eating minimal food, and a lot of work that I was putting it through. So teaching myself, to pull back in that regard, because I knew it wasn't sustainable. I knew I couldn't do this anymore. And allowing my body to have the time to just be and do what it needed to do while I fueled it with, the best nutrition I could, prioritizing my sleep, training, and, just bringing the joy back into what I was doing. It took time, but I just stayed the course, because I knew it was only a matter of time before I turned the corner, because I had seen other people do it.
And I love that what we're talking about here is more is not always better.
Yeah.
So there is such thing as overtraining. There is such thing as too much. And, and that's the point that you got to, is where you realized that you needed to give the body the rest, to finding that balance between challenging yourself, which was not an issue. And then also, giving yourself the rest, the recovery, the grace, the fuel that you needed to be able to really, be your most healthy version of yourself. And it's been really cool to watch you continue to evolve through all of that. And I'd love to know a little bit more about, as, you talked about the eating disorder. So I think, just kind of talking a little bit about, when you realized that had occurred, and, kind of, because I know this is something a lot of people battle with at different levels. So maybe just kind of giving us some insight of, how you discovered it and how you overcame it.
Yeah. I mean, it was a secret for years, and my husband is actually the one who outed me about it, because we had eaten dinner and I was purging it in the bathroom after. And he heard me, and he's like, "What are you doing?" He opened the door and caught me doing it. And, for a lot of men or guys, young men at that time, that could have been like I got to get out of this relationship. But he he sought help for me. Like, he talked to his teachers, and, you know, it escalated from there. You know, my parents got involved, and, you know, I started going to therapy, and at the time I was very reluctant to it. I was in denial. I didn't think I needed any help. And, you know, now I know it was so beneficial for me, you know, in many aspects, you know, aside from just what I thought I saw, you know, having this eating disorder. I thought I was much larger than I was, like my perception of myself. So reframing what I was seeing was a big part of that recovery process. And I think that actually carries on into, you know, post-show and competing and all of that, you know, because we have major body dysmorphia at a certain degree. You know, we get used to looking super lean, and we expect that to be normal, and in reality, it's not. So when we are at a healthy normal body weight, you know, probably even more on the athletic side, where you're, you know, in the teens as far as body fat percentage, it's a mental battle, because we want to see those lines, we want to see that chiseled, you know, everything. It's cool, but it's not sustainable. And, you know, understanding body image and the relationship that I created with myself through recovery from my eating disorder, it's helped me know I do not want to ever go back to that. You know, so every off season, that's why I don't mind taking longer off seasons, because I know it's just going to be beneficial for my body and my mindset. Because at a certain point, I get used to being a little softer. I'm like, this is great. I'm cool with this. I don't mind this, you know. And when I'm lean for that long period of time, you get used to it.
Do you consider yourself recovered from the eating disorder, or recovering?
I consider myself recovered. Like, I don't have any restrictive tendencies or anything like that anymore. I don't binge anymore. It's been a really long time since that's happened.
And you talked about your husband outing you, or
he brought it to the surface,
bringing it to the
really
surface,
supporting you,
and really supporting you. And I do think that's a great seminal example of what it takes to kind of get out of that habit. I'm curious, was there an event, or was it a kind of a boiling the frog thing where it just occurred, where it just kind of emerged over time, that put you in that eating disorder?
Very much a boiling of the frog. Just thinking I needed to restrict more. And, you know, then, I mean, I can't remember if I would, you know, like when the binging started, like, or not binging necessarily, purging, because I would eat like a normal person, you know, and just, I would feel guilty for eating that because I needed to be in a calorie deficit. So I'd purge it to help create that calorie deficit. And that's just the disordered thinking, you know, or I would go and run on the treadmill for an hour, you know, same concept, you know, I got to burn this off. And just, it was very much just a little bit more. And then to the point where, you know, even after I was outed, I felt like I still was spiraling deeper, like resisting and, you know, not wanting help, and like in denial. I don't have a problem. Like, I can just stop whenever I want and eat. It's fine. But it really wasn't. I got to my lowest probably a year after recovery or being discovered. And as a mom now, it's thinking like that could potentially happen to both my kids. You know, it's especially now with just social media and everything, like it scares me a little bit.
The pressure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, like protecting that for myself, but also for them. And, you know, even my clients, like I can't tell you how many conversations I have with them, like well before we get on stage, like, this is what you need to expect to happen. You cannot expect yourself to have control after your show, even if your food's high, you know, even if you're well fed, because your body fat is so low, your body thinks it's starving. It's like, this is not safe. This is not normal. You need to eat. So understanding that you might not be able to turn it off is an important factor I like to discuss with my clients well before they get on stage.
Yeah, as we were talking through this, that was going to be my question, is how you going through that yourself has helped you help your clients. And I do think that being able to relate and know what they're feeling. So what do you do in those situations post-show where we know those hunger signals are completely out of whack? Do you like to get their food up a bit higher? Like, how do you help people manage that? I mean, it doesn't have to be a show necessarily too. I mean, if somebody's dieting.
A dieting phase, you know, where we had to push a little bit. And so I feel like that's pretty common. I mean, I'll start by saying, like, even after my first shows, I had tendencies to binge, you know, and it was all healthy stuff. It wasn't anything like cookies and donuts and things like that. It was just more food that I would normally be eating, and I would be like just mindlessly eating it. You know, and then that actually triggered some of my eating disorder past, and I was like, we got to stop this right now. And so that's the beauty of, you know, and this was more when I was on the meal plan, but the flexible dieting really helped prevent that. But just knowing, gone through that myself, like being recovered from this eating disorder and then it resurfacing after competing, it's like I'm a stickler with it. Even if I have clients that do have eating disorder tendencies and they're like, I want to compete. I'm like, you know, we really got to make sure like you are in a healthy mindset, because without this eating disorder background, I've seen it create eating disorders because you aren't prepared going into it. So what I tell and talk with my clients about it is just, you know, number one, don't let sugar be the first thing you put in your mouth. Like, you're already getting that with your pump up. Like, you're already getting an insulin spike from the honey and rice cakes that you're eating backstage. Like, you don't need more, you know? So there's that. And then, you know, I don't say no, like you can't have it. Just it's not going to be the first thing. You're going to eat your protein first, like bring a snack. And I feel like after junior nationals, that was like the biggest thing for me, because I brought a snack. I had my turkey and rice ready to go with me. And while I was waiting for feedback, I was eating that. So I was hungry and I felt fine after that. And I honestly can't even remember what I ate after. I think it was a sandwich.
and that's where, for our listeners, you've got your pro card.
Yeah.
So I know one of the things we really wanted to go into with this episode is talking about patience, because, you know, you've been really patient and you've had other life priorities, you know? So I think a lot of times as competitors, people can get very tunnel vision and forget this is a part of your life.
Right.
Don't let it become your life. So watching your journey has been very inspirational for me to be a part of, and just your patience and your steadiness, and this being more about a lifestyle for you, not just about the end goal. So I just want to hear from you a little bit about, like, what did that look like? How did you manage it in a way that allowed you to be patient and enjoy the journey?
Mm-hmm. I think it stems back from wanting to protect, you know, my mindset and my body from not going into that dangerous zone of the eating disorder. And, you know, the stage is always going to be there, but this life that I live this is the only one I got. So when I think of it as what I'm doing to get to that goal, it's still centralized around the lifestyle. Like, I'm going to live this lifestyle all the time. Like, I love it. I feel my best when I'm doing it from a mental standpoint, you know, an emotional standpoint, a physical standpoint. You know, I'm a better person living this way. And knowing that each day I can live it, it's just, you know, it's just another day for me. Like, I'm still going to do my action steps that I need to do to get to this next level, to do, you know, turning pro, you know, last year. I still did everything I normally would do. And it's just the way I live. And that's why I think I blend everything so well, because I need that balance. If I don't have that, if I'm constantly tipped, there's other parts of me that are suffering, and that's going to, you know, reflect in every area of my life.
Well, we talk a lot about building that house of success.
Yeah.
And I think in this microwave culture that we have, and I think we see it very prevalent in the competition community, is that the first thing people say is, I want that pro card, instead of focusing on building the foundation of the house, which is the lifestyle. And as you're talking about this, Angela, that's what I'm thinking about, is the foundation is not the pro card. But I do think some competitors approach it that way.
Yeah.
The pro card is the end all be all. It's like, how can you build a house when you haven't got a solid foundation? You're putting the roof on, you're furnishing it before you even got the base.
Yeah.
And you and I talk a lot about mindset over time. And I had this question in my head is, what is patience and mindset? How do those things interrelate to produce? Because it's like, what's come first? It's almost like a chicken and the egg thing. Does patience come first, or does mindset come first, or do they come together? But you are really the
or is patience a mindset?
That's exactly right. Yeah. So that are they related? And in fact, I did a little Venn diagram with the crossover on that same thought. You are the poster child for the opposite of the microwave. You're the crock pot culture, and the slow cooking, and to produce that really just awesome tender meat that comes out. Although we don't want tender, we want nice full muscles. But you know what I'm getting with the metaphor, right? So how do you coach that? How do you take that forward? Because you are blessed with the patience gene and the mindset gene. So how do you coach into that?
If you do the work, the results are going to come. You're eventually going to get there. And I think it's silly that we put timelines on everything. Like, I have to achieve this by this. What's going to happen in your life that could derail you? You know, there's always something, and multiple things. And, you know, when it rains, it pours. And you have to have the foundation to navigate how to get through those hard times so that you can keep going, versus it's too hard. Give up. I can never do this. And having that kind of negative mindset is what's going to keep you where you're at. I've learned to kind of push past many, hard times in my life, and just, I hone into this lifestyle. I hone into almost like what I can control. And this is where it kind of gets into that gray area of that disordered thinking and just, eating disorder. Like, that was my one thing I can control. And I validate my control now because I still have that balance. Like, I don't have to track, I know how I need to eat. And, I did this during my pregnancies and postpartum for a good amount of time, and still saw progress. And you just have to have that awareness of the lifestyle and apply it
day after day.
Day after day. Yeah.
Well, and it's funny because you're talking about the hard times, and I'm thinking there's also the good things too.
Totally,
so one of the things I know a lot of women struggle with, that want to compete or are living a fitness lifestyle, is when do I have kids? So this was something you encountered because you were on that track for working towards your pro card, but at a point it became, hey, I want to start a family, so I need to kind of hit the pause button on competing for a little bit and focus more. Not that it was a pause button on your fitness goals.
No, I kept doing my fitness. I kept doing my lifestyle. I trained through both pregnancies. I loosely tracked more for data purposes. Like, I wanted to know, like, what was my body craving? Not intentionally to hit any numbers per se. Protein was a priority, but that was hard. That was a hard one for me to hit with both pregnancies. And having children was one of the best things, that could happen in my life. And I was in my mid-30s, and Jeff and I were turning a corner, with, our personal relationship and our marriage and, personal development. And we were just ready to do that. And I knew the stage is always going to be there. I wasn't pro yet, but I knew it was only a matter of time before it would happen, and hitting pause. I don't even want to say pause because I'm still working on it, but just, allowing myself to live this part of my life, do this, and come back. And I came back.
And I think
with a vengeance.
And this is part of whenever we're talking about patience in regards to yourself, as well as a lot of the, athletes that, we coach and that kind of thing. I think so many times women are afraid to say, okay, I'm going to go and, focus on creating a family and those kinds of things, and might even miss their window if they're not willing to make that call at some point. And you're such a great testament that you brought your best look ever after kids. So that's where the payoff is. When we talk about the payoff, is that, that patience, that willingness to say, hey, I'm at a point in my life where there's something that's really important to me. I want to have a family. That doesn't mean my fitness goals have gone anywhere. That doesn't mean I don't want to get back on the stage. It's just integrated, like you were talking about, into your life. It's not, stopping. And what was so cool to see, and I have seen this before, is a lot of times post pregnancy, post children, the metabolism actually, it's almost like a reset.
Wild.
So, I mean,
it was wild.
Yeah.
Like I felt like my metabolism was on fire, more so after Wyatt than it was with Ember. Ember, I want to enjoy this first year. And yes, I want to lose my body fat, but I don't want to have such a, strict goal. But man, when she turned 1, it was like game on, so I did that. I enjoyed my first year postpartum and it was wonderful. But with Wyatt, I was like, okay, I've done this before. I was interrupted, with this beautiful, little boy, but it's time to work. And it was very much just, integrating everything. And time, it takes time to change your body, and granted, I wasn't lifting with, as much intensity, as I was. And at the time, we were wanting to do wellness. And I was like, I remember the conversation I had with you. And I'm like, I don't know if wellness is for me. I want to compete now and I want to turn pro sooner than later. And I knew wellness was going to take more time. So I felt like I had atrophied a little bit with my lower body because I wasn't able to train like
as intensely,
yeah. I mean, even with Wyatt, even like just getting off the couch was painful. So he was a big baby. So just giving my body the time it needed to bring the best that I could, and same thing going into my pro debut. Like I'm a little hesitant with not just jumping into that first Sacramento show for the experience, but I knew based on what I was seeing, like I needed to grow more to be competitive, and I'm competitive. Like it is about, the personal journey and, bringing the best that you can to stage, but within a couple weeks, I wasn't sure if I would bring anything different, So now going into this next year with, 10 months in between right now, I feel like we've made some improvements.
Definitely.
So I'm excited to make that pro debut. And it just comes down to, it's going to be there.
Yeah. So talking about the journey from start, when you first started prepping to compete, how long ago was that?
It was in 20. Okay, so
the very first show ever.
St. Patrick's Day 2012 was the last hoorah I had before I jumped into this lifestyle and started prepping for my first show.
So 12 years.
Almost to the day, yeah.
So, I mean, this is where I'm talking about patience, and this is, and what you've created is a lifestyle. Mm-hmm. Like beyond the fact that you earned your pro card, which was the goal, you've been able to create this beautiful lifestyle, this beautiful family, like all these other things. And this is what I love so much sharing, because I think a lot of times people think it's an all or none, you can only do one thing. And I think that's one of the things that's so incredible about everything you've accomplished in your story. And then now you being able to, and you have been for quite a while. I mean, how long have you been coaching now? 10 years? 10 years.
I think I did. I started coaching for you. 2014.
So 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah. Being able to then
9 years of just coaching online.
Yeah. Teaching other women now, how do they do the same thing in their lives? And, depending on what their goals are and what they look like.
Yeah.
Well, I want to interject something here because you guys made me think of this, is that we were at the Masters USA's last year in Pittsburgh, and they had the pro show that followed the amateur show. And I remember distinctly there were a couple athletes that were celebrated for how long it took them to get their pro card. One was 25 years, I believe, and the other one was 45 years.
The Pro Masters.
Yeah,
wow,
40,
yeah.
World Masters Pro.
Yeah, these long time World Masters Pro, that's it. And I just remember that celebration. And as we were talking about this, and you just thought, I think about how many athletes have made it, how many athletes come in and they say, oh, I want to get to the Olympia, or I want to get that pro card. And then they get the pro card or they get to the Olympia, and it's almost like a letdown. Mm. Like it's either come too quickly, or it didn't give them the value that they thought they wanted, or something. It didn't fill whatever it was that was their need. And I think about you, Angela, in particular on this, is that you, and this is where I want to pivot into, is that trusting the process part, is that you you built a strong foundation. You employed that patience mindset, and then you just allowed the journey to evolve in whatever way that it was, on whatever timeline that it was. And you found great value, and we find value and tremendous inspiration in the fact of how many different pivots you made during that, from figure to wellness to bikini, or bikini to figure to wellness to bikini, and you did all those divisions. You employed this mindset of just being able to trust that whatever you were investing in yourself would ultimately produce an outcome that you could celebrate and that would fulfill you.
Yeah.
And I think about that a lot because and it really sets to that goal setting or that objective setting when you start out. But what's your secret to trusting the process?
I love this question, Greg.
He asks the good ones.
Because there's so much value in just enjoying what you're doing. If you're not enjoying it, you're not going to continue. And, through my journey, there's been a lot of involvement, with training for different divisions and switching courses. And it comes down to what I wanted. I'm going to lift weights. That's what I do. I'm just going to do it. That's a given. I'm going to follow my nutrition plan. I'm just going to do that and eat this way. If I'm training for something that I do not foresee myself doing, long term, then that's where we pivot and that's where we change, especially with the division and values, it's the higher up. If you do not have the genetics, you're going to be kind of forced to use performance enhancements to level up because your body's only going to do so much, naturally. And having that value, I did not want to do that, so that's why we switched to bikini initially from figure, because it was evolving, and same thing with wellness. Like, I needed the time to build the legs, and it's continued to evolve, and same kind of thing, it's those. Where am I going with this?
I kind of have an idea of where you're going, which is the process that you really focused on was not an outcome. It was not a get a pro card or get to the Olympia. The process that you were really focused on was building the lifestyle.
Yeah.
And then what that did for you along the way is it allowed you to pivot to opportunities that presented themselves based on how your body was responding, based on the lifestyle based on the other life events that you were living in. God knows you've had a lot of life events between, the 2 kids and, new house, moving into a different house, and all the things that you've had to accommodate in your life. But because you focused so much on the process and you trusted that as long as I invest myself in this, when an opportunity presents itself, I can then adjust to that.
Yeah, I can change directions, and it's just a flip of a switch. There's not a lot of thinking, and it comes down to that enjoyment, though. If I'm not enjoying what 100%. I'm doing, it's not going to get done. And exercise and this lifestyle is something I hone in when there are larger times of stress. I know I am less anxious when I train. I know I have a more positive mindset when I train and express that energy, and just it's almost like meditation. For me, it really is. Like, I'm focusing on this muscle at this moment in time, and we're going to make it bigger.
Training is the best antidepressant and anti-anxiety.
Yeah,
it really is. I mean, I remember when I found training in the gym, and I definitely feel like the attraction for me was as much of an emotional and mental benefit than it was, for the physical benefits. One of the things I did want to jump into is your flexibility around coming up with solutions, like being solution oriented, and like getting some equipment that you could train at home, for example, because we all had to do that for a while. but you've been really good about figuring that out, and having young kids at home, and then juggling your business and everything else. I'd love to hear a little bit more about, like, what did you do in those situations where you had to come up with, these kinds of solutions, and how did you make it work for you? Because I think so often people just go, oh, well, I don't have a gym membership, or I don't have the time to go, like, oh, well, I guess I can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think COVID was a blessing in disguise in that aspect, because it forced a lot of us to start getting home equipment. I pulled a lot of my stuff out of storage because we were living with my parents at the time. And, we got my barbells, we got my plates, we got my dumbbells, we got my kettlebells, I had bands, and I kind of just set up a little, training, little gym at my mom and dad's house. And, eventually it grew because things were progressing with COVID and the gyms weren't opening up. And I think I went to the gym one time before they were shut down. And that was hard. I was breastfeeding still. And, you know, I was away from Ember for 2 hours. My kids like to eat every hour, you know, so that was a bit of a struggle. And, you know, just that one time I was like, this isn't going to work. I need to invest more into my home gym so that I can make my lifestyle doable, that, you know, because at the end of the day, that's what I needed to do for myself, to have the mental clarity and, you know, working on myself, and I have to work out.
and to be clear, you weren't investing in your gym equipment. You were investing in you.
I was investing in me. Yeah. So we got the squat rack, and I was able to start doing, you know, bigger lifts, and we got the leg press and hack squat, and, you know, it's just kind of evolved from there. But there's nothing compares to having the convenience of my home gym. And now, like, I do work out at the gym, but it's just, you have to set yourself up for what is going to be realistic within your lifestyle. You know, it wasn't realistic. The childcare wasn't going to work. You know, I'm not going to ask my parents to watch the kids so I can go to the gym at 5 a.m, you know, so it just needed to adapt with what I was willing to spend the money to invest more in myself. And I think a lot of people get hung up on that, like whether it's a financial, you know, they're stuck financially, or, you know, time is an issue. You just have to figure out, what can you do? Can you do 15 minutes, you know, with some dumbbells and a TRX, you know? Yes, you can.
that is a common problem. And as we talk about the scarcity versus the abundance mindset, it's very easy to focus on what you don't have versus what you do.
Yeah.
And when you do that, then you are focusing on the problem instead of the outcome for that problem, which is okay, I'm not in a position where I can afford a leg press or a squat rack, but what can I afford? And then focus on that. Okay, well, this is not the best or the ideal solution, and it works for my process right now.
Right now.
And I think that's how you approach things, Angela, it's really a focus on the right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to do something that is going to be a forever thing. I just need to do something for what I need right now.
Yeah. Not thinking too far in the future. And, you know, I knew, like, I was going to outgrow my dumbbells, you know, and that's why I invested in more equipment at home. But, you know, if you're not finding the way to, how do I want to say this?
Can I take a stab at this a little bit? Because I think it goes back to this other piece, which is that you already mentioned, is making sure that there's some kind of fun or enjoyment in that. And I think that's what you were searching for. Did I get it? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, and this reminds me of, like, having my kids around me when I was working out, and still do. Like, it makes me smile. And granted, it's a little frustrating at times, but I love it.
Yeah, we've seen some of your check-in photos, your check-in videos.
I love it.
Which are always enjoyable.
Well, and you think about that it's also creating in their minds that this is normal. This is what you do. You exercise. And I think that's a really good, positive
thing.
That's
what I grew up with.
Right.
You know?
And that's why it is normal for you. Yeah, absolutely. And the same with, you know, healthy eating habits. And I know, you know, as parents, it's something we always want to be cautious about, because we don't want our kids to think they need to, you know, limit themselves.
Right.
And at the same time, we want to build around those good habits of, you know, let's always make sure we're getting some good protein and we're getting our veggies and our fruits. And so I definitely, and I see that with your kids and how they watch what you're doing and they're following it. And it's a cool thing to watch. If people aren't watching Angela's Instagram, like, I have so much fun watching them and just their joy around, like, you get your butcher box
in. They love unboxing days. They love it.
Well, you have integrated your family into your lifestyle. And again, you know, I know we keep hitting on this, and I apologize. Well, I don't apologize for being repetitive, because this is the point: is that you have made the lifestyle all inclusive.
Yeah.
It's an all inclusive resort here, where the kids are involved in your lifestyle. Jeff is involved in your lifestyle. You've brought in your family. You bring in your athletes.
Yeah.
So it's not like you have different compartments here. You have built a solid foundation of overlay, of intersections.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
And honestly, it's awesome to watch. And while we're talking about Instagram, Angela, why don't you tell everybody how to connect with you?
Okay, so my Instagram handle is Angela Rutherford _. I have 2. I had a personal account that was hacked. So a lot of times that will be the first one that comes up. So if you're not putting the underscore in there, you're probably not going to find me. And then I have a YouTube channel. It's kind of sad.
Why?
Because it's time. It's time to do that. And, you know, I was stressing myself out trying to make content and, you know, the editing process and getting it all uploaded. And I was like, I can't. I got to take a break.
And you still have some good content up there. People
do.
can go and take a look at it.
It's still up there. And then what else? The website, FitBody Fusion.
Or if they're interested, yes. I was going to say, if they're interested in doing a consultation.
Yep. You can just select me as your coach, you know, once you fill out the application, and we will get started.
Yeah.
And, do we have time for one more question?
Yeah, I think we have time for
just
one
more question. Just so Angela, I dare say that you are somewhat of an outlier in terms of just all the things that you've dealt with over your life, and more importantly, how you have employed this patience aspect. Okay, you coach a number of athletes, hundreds of athletes over the years. You're a master at meeting your clients where they are. And what I've seen you do is not impose your style on their style. What you do, just like you've done in building that foundation, is work to harmonize what their needs are with what you're able to coach. And I also know it's frustrating sometimes because, like, why can't you just do that? Why can't you just do it? Why can't you just do it the way I do it? So how do you always dip into that part of your personality to make sure that you are getting your clients to trust you and then trust that process?
I think having the relatability factor, like, I've done a lot of things wrong, you know, and knowing what not to do for them. And it's really easy to just say, just do this and you're going to get these results. And a lot of people do, but then what happens once they get there? And that sustainability factor is eliminated, you know? So it's a matter of finding what is going to work for them, because it's very individualized. And, you know, what is good for Sally might not be good for, you know, Missy, you know, and it's the dynamic of each household, and whether they're single or they have a family, it's going to be very diverse. And, you know, we'll get on a call, and if the plan, I start very basic, you know, with a lot of, especially like people who've never competed before or are new to tracking and just this lifestyle in general. I'm like, let's just hit your protein. That's all I care about. I don't care where your calories are at. Just let's see what happens with hitting your protein target. And, you know, the gym is always easy for them. Like, they'll go to the gym, they'll do all the work, they'll do whatever I tell them. But as far as like the nutritional aspect, I feel like that's where people get more hung up on. And I'll set the bar at a reasonable, achievable, you know, position for them. And then we'll just build it up from there. You know, next might be tracking protein and calories. You know, next might be tracking the rest of your macros, but staying within 10 grams instead of 5 grams, you know, and just, you know, gradually building upon that foundation, you know, one, you know, step at a time until we get to a point where we're just cruising and crushing it. Like, it's just a part of their lifestyle.
Get out of my head, because I was just thinking about what you're doing is you're helping them build their own foundation, just the way that you've
teaching them how to do it. Because I remember as a kid, like, I used to want to be a teacher, you know, and I feel like I am that.
You are.
So I'm doing both things, you know, fitness and teaching. And if you can't sustain it, you're not going to continue to do it. And, you know, finding the joy in what you're doing and why you're doing it is such an important process to that sustainability, you know, and it doesn't have to be these big giant leaps, because bodybuilding and just, you know, having a healthy lifestyle, if you're applying the daily things, your results are going to come. And it's only a matter of time. It doesn't have to be tomorrow. It can be, you know, a week from now, 2 months from now, a year from now. If you're focused on the destination, it's going to be less enjoyable versus focusing on the journey and the process and learning how to do this so that you're successful the rest of your life.
Brilliant.
That's a great punctuation mark.
Brilliant.
You know what we forgot to do?
Check-in word. We didn't do your check-in word. So
we can do a check-out word and do that. Okay. So a check-in word, check-out word was just your sentiment, your intentionality, whatever the feelings are you're having at this moment for today in this conversation.
Gratitude.
I love that. That's an awesome one. And I will.
I feel like I'm always saying that. I feel like
yeah, but and the gratitude
You
mindset
can't have
that
too
you
much
can have too
gratitude.
much. I agree. Yeah.
No.
And shout out to our friends at Rapport Leadership International. And the reason I say that is because that's kind of one of the domains that we really go back to for trusting the process, and some of the training that Angela is a master graduate of Rapport Leadership International. And
am I a master grad?
I thought you were.
I think I need to go.
Oh, you
through
know. Oh,
LB2.
you still need the one course. That's right. Sorry.
She was busy.
I was making
That's
a
right.
baby.
You were making
baby.
a baby when we had that. Yeah.
I wanted to go, but it wasn't advised.
You want to take us out then?
Yes. Well, actually, we'll have you take us out.
Okay, I'll take us out.
You don't like how I do it.
It's not that I don't like how you do it. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. I think we missed the check-in word because we were so excited to start this conversation, and we'd like to have you back for another episode, and we'll do the check-in word for that one. And until then, please like, subscribe, comment. And did I miss anything else?
And leave a review.
Leave a review. Those would be, we do look at the comments. We do look at the reviews. If you have ideas on how we can make this content better, we want to know. We are open to the feedback, and we are trusting our own process.
So be good to yourself.
Be good to each other, and be safe.
Thank you for tuning in to FitBody Lifestyle. We hope today's episode has left you feeling motivated and equipped to tackle your fitness goals, business challenges, and the daily dance of life. Remember to value progress over perfection. Life's tough enough alone. Find the chosen family around you to help you along the way.
If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite streaming platform. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at FitBody Fusion.